So a nerd was walking home from school and he encountered some bullies, like the really bad kind. They beat him, stripped him, took everything he had on him, and left, leaving him half dead. By chance, another nerd, who could relate to the beaten nerd's situation, was taking the same route home, but passed on the other side of the road. Likewise, a girl that had a crush on the nerd was walking home from school the same way too. The both of them had always taken the same route home from school since years ago, but again, she passed him on the other side of the road. Then, in the blink of an eye, Chad arrives. He recognizes the nerd needs help and has mercy on him. So despite their vast differences, Chad picks the nerd up and strides to the hospital, 30 miles away in a matter of seconds. Chad tells the hospital personnel on staff to take care of the nerd, to clothe him, to give him food and drink, and a taxi home when the time comes for him to leave. Chad pulls out $100,000 from his shirt, because Chad is always prepared for anything, and says that if the amount of money isn't enough, then he will come back to pay more. With that, the nerd is rushed into the ER, and Chad bounds away to retrieve more money. So I decided to make the nerd represent the Jewish man because he's just an easy target and he would be the one who would get kind of beaten on and hated on the most out of everybody in like kind of a high school environment. It's kind of what I was going for. Also, I picked him because not very many people are willing to help like a kind of unpopular nerd out when they need help. I chose the Pharisee and the Levite to be represented by the other nerd and the girl who likes the first nerd, the one who was beaten up, because they're both people who you would expect to help this guy out when he needed help, but they really didn't, even though he was like in dire need. And then there's Chad. I chose Chad to represent a Samaritan because normally Chads and nerds, they don't get along very well. And maybe like the Chads bully the nerds a lot. And yeah, they don't have much in common at all. And it's really rare for Chads and like nerds and stuff to even associate with each other. So it was that much more meaningful for the Chad to like kind of help this dude out when he needed it. What Jesus was really conveying through this parable is that everyone should love their neighbor like kind of as they would love themselves. And I thought this would just be a great example because the Chad nerd, they don't get along. And even though they don't get along and like social norms kind of keep them apart from each other, the Chad still helped out the nerd when he needed it. So everybody modern day kind of knows a Chad and a nerd and how they interact with each other, if they even do at all, which makes this whole scenario that much more meaningful that a Chad would help a nerd out like this.